here we are, June. I just couldn't believe it last week when I said, man, June has arrived. Is this amazing? You know, it's interesting. I had a superintendent meeting last week and all of the El Dorado schools are done. And, you know, they were all celebrating. I'm like, well, we get 2 more weeks to be with kids. We get that opportunity to keep learning and growing, especially in this pandemic year. And so excited to have graduations this week. On Friday morning, we'll have our Mount Talat graduation, and then Friday late afternoon, 4 o'clock, we'll have our South Tahoe High School graduation. And I'm really excited about that because obviously last year we were unable to do graduations as normal. There's as normal-ish as we possibly can be, right? We're still going to have some masks on, and we're still going to have some distance. Some people go, well, do we need masks? Well, actually, the state guidance is still been directed with schools to be wearing masks. And actually, I will tell you this, be the first to let you know, most likely masks will be a part of next year as well. We follow the California Department of Public Health's guidance. And right now, the word is that there still may be some masking components to it. So that probably may hit some people like, really? But obviously we'll work through what's expected of us next year. But finishing out this year is what's most important to me. And I got to tell you, I'm just so excited when I get out to see the students in school, moving around, being excited. I met with our school board student representatives this afternoon, was sharing with me the excitement of the prom they had this past weekend. Really a shout out to Edgewood and the folks there that helped have us have that event and support our schools. By the way, just amazing support by so many folks in our community to support our schools. And so thank you to all and everyone that helps and gives back to our school system, no matter how you do it. I really appreciate that. So we get this opportunity to finish strong. I'm sure that our high school students are getting ready for their finals. Everybody's getting used to this really warm weather. I'm really actually glad it's going to cool down midweek this week so that we can not be so hot, but what a beautiful time of year it really is. And then we move on into the summertime. And at our last board meeting, we passed what we call the Extended Learning Opportunities Plan, which has built into it some intervention work we'll do with students during the summer. It has built into it what we call the Jump Start. Jump Start's the idea that we'll start school 2 weeks early for our TK through 5th grade students if they want to attend school 2 weeks early and get started early. We're looking at a 6th grade get started with 1 week early, so we can help our 6th graders transition from elementary to middle school, and then our 9th graders for 1 week early to have them help transition into high school. Really feel like that's one of the most important components for that good fresh start at both middle school and high school. We do have a challenge. We don't, number one, and next week, within this week and into next week, we'll ask our parents how many want to send their children to Jumpstart, but not always that easy to staff. It's summertime. It's not, it's not a mandatory time for our staff. So we're going to try to see how many students are coming and how many staff are willing to work on that. And so we'll be working on that over the next couple of weeks. So, those are some of the highlights that just wanted to bring up. I'm just going to go through what's on the board agenda, because there's a couple of really important things on the board agenda this tomorrow night, actually, that are really important to what's happening in our district. And we start at 5. We open with the Pledge of Allegiance and roll call and adopt the agenda, but we really go right into a closed session. I like to tell everybody, if you ever see on the agenda, public employee performance evaluation, I'm the board's only employee, and that's them talking about how I'm performing. Oftentimes we're talking about goals that they have for me, my goals that I have for myself, how we're accomplishing those goals, and do the evaluation process. We talk regularly about that. So you might see it on the agenda quite often. But we'll come out of closed session right at 6 o'clock. Tomorrow night, we have 3 public hearings. Public hearings are a required component of certain actions that we take as a elected group of folks working for a school district. And a public hearing for 3 things are mandatory right now. One is the local control accountability plan. Local control accountability plan is basically, in essence, it's a strategic plan for the district of how we're going to meet the performance needs of our students. How are we going to improve academics? That plan right now is in 3 basic goal sets, 3 basic action areas. One is to think about how we are really truly providing a curriculum instruction to our students. One area is how do we support our teachers to be effective with them. And then the third area is really about how are we helping our families, our parents, and also the social emotional development of our students. So those are the three basic areas for the LCAP. Again, it's out of public hearing. And then we have our budget. But before the end of June, we have to have a budget and an LCAP approved. And so this public hearing on, hey, here's the money that we are budgeting for, and here's how we're budgeting for it. And then 7.3 on it is our public hearing on the Tahoe Alpine SELPA Annual Service Delivery Plan and Budget Plan. A SELPA is the local area of how we provide special education services. And Alpine County and Lake Tahoe Unified are one SELPA. Our director of that SELPA happens to be our Associate Superintendent, Dr. Anna Marie Cohen. And so we have to get all three of those documents approved by our board before the end of June. The state requires a public hearing on that, but they are on the agenda too. So we'll tell them, so we continue to have discussion. We agendize the LCAP quite often just to make sure we're updating the board on the planning, the structure of it, and how we're moving forward. We happen tomorrow night to be recognizing our retirees. And so we'll be able to recognize all of our retirees tomorrow night, call out their name, where they teach, where they've taught, and how many years they've served. Really excited. The district's actually going to also host a retirement celebration for the retirees, but this is one of those steps. I think it's so important to celebrate retirees as they do all this work over the years of serving students and serving a district, serving a community, and what really appreciate their work. And then we'll jump in we'll do some continued recognition of some folks, and then we'll jump into our educational agenda. By the way, if you ever come to a meeting or look at the board agenda, we really want to make sure education is one of the first things we have on. We want to focus on what are we doing for students in teaching and learning. So we'll talk about the LCAP, the Local Control Accountability Plan. We'll talk about the SELPA local plan. We're going to talk about EL reclassification guidelines and timelines and criteria. EL is English learners. McKinney-Vento supports and services. McKinney-Vento is homeless students and how we're providing supports and services to them. And then per Assembly Bill 2246, we also need to update our suicide prevention plan. So those are all on the agenda. Then we get into business, and business has the multi-year projections and budget I just talked about for the coming year. We have for action a revised facility use fee schedule. It's kind of been a little controversial, but one of the things that's important to me is that we equitably charge all users for our facilities. And so it's not about making money. It's about just making sure that we cover costs of use of our facilities as well as do it equitably. And then we have personnel services that follows that. And which is going to be really important. First one on there is substitute rates. We have a real struggle of getting substitute teachers. And I bet you sometimes your students might come home and go, God, didn't have a sub, and Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so subbed, or the principal subbed. And we really need to up our rates and try to be more attractive to substitute teachers. But also, even then, it's just hard sometimes because of how you qualify to be a substitute teacher. But if anybody has got a bachelor's degree, thinking about wanting to be a substitute teacher, contact our HR office. Really just call the district office and say, can I talk to HR? Okay. Then we go through some approvals of salary schedules. We've been approving salary schedules for previous board meetings. We started with teachers, our classified unit, and now we've been working on what we call unrepresented groups of our staff. And then we'll agree to some components of what we're going to be negotiating with our classified unit next year. And then there's new board policies on the agenda. And by the way, we get new board policies and updated board policies all the time. Shannon's sitting here. CSBA, California School Boards Association, provides updates based on changes in law, based on new revised components to it. And so we try to stay up on top of those, and she does a great job. We'll have those on there. And then we look at our board governance calendar. What are we going to cover throughout the year? And that'll end our agenda. So a lot on there. I think the biggest thing I wanted to make sure, though, I talked about from the agenda is our LCAP, the Local Control Accountability Plan. And just so everybody knows that if you haven't been engaged with this process, the LCAP is a process of engaging our public. And we need to engage our public through several methods, but one by law is we have to have a parent advisory council. Now, the parent advisory council actually has to have a certain makeup on it. And when I mean that, who's in that? And it has to have a cross section of our student population. Who do we serve? And there are parents there representing those groups. We engage with our staff around the LCAP. We have a task force that meets monthly to discuss how we're going to do our LCAP, but then also we'll discuss how we're implementing our LCAP. One of the things that we started this year, well, we will start, but we had a vision workshop. And we asked our community, we had people on Zoom and in the room. And that vision workshop is really important even for the LCAP, because it's like, here's the vision of the district. Does our LCAP plan meet up with the vision of the district? And then annually, we will have what we call the Vision Revisited and LCAP review meeting. And we'll do that every spring to kind of go over with everybody. And we'll have it in probably at the high school where we had our vision workshop previously. So we'll be doing that. I gotta tell you, this is all I plan on doing right here, right? It's just giving you a complete update of things that are happening, things that are going on. Again, part of a communication plan is to be as clear as possible to be able to answer questions. So hopefully we didn't go without hearing me, but if we did, I'm sorry, now you're hearing me now. But right now would be when we would turn to questions. Are there any questions? And so again, out there that are folks that may be tuning in or watching, you know, obviously you can't ask questions right now, but if you were in the room, we just start going question answer. My intent is always to be done by 6:30. So right now it's almost 5:50. So we'd have about 30 minutes of question answer, and then I'd do some closure from the questions and answer. So of those, and we now have 5 people in the room. I'm counting staff, by the way, that's good, appreciate it. You know, we have our IT department here. We've got superintendent's office here. We've got a principal and we got a parent. So are there any questions from anybody on anything I've covered or anything else that you may want an answer to? Yes. Yeah, well, you know what? I wonder, hold on a second. Can you do the camera? I got it. I get it. Well, so what's interesting about the artwork behind this is the dais, or the dais, depends on how you like to say it, where the board meets, and this is our logo, the Lake Tahoe Unified School District logo. Number one, I love it. I think it's just a beautiful logo. It represents us, mountains, water, and trees. But these words, navigate, discover, cultivate, achieve, were words that came through during our vision workshop, and are actually captured within our vision statement, our mission statement, our board's goals and priorities. And actually don't have them out in front of me right now to share all that with everybody. What's interesting, in the boardroom, we really captured these 4 words: navigate, discover, cultivate, achieve. And just thinking along with that, our vision really talks about wanting to make sure that we help our students truly discover their unique talents, and then we cultivate those talents, right? So we want to think about how we navigate our students to their right paths for future success, how we help them discover through that process, cultivate what talents and skills and uniqueness they have, and then they have achieved, right? They get to their achievement. So that's what those words are. If you come into the boardroom, we're going to continue to put some different pieces up. The vision will be up. Again, you know, really the vision is about students identifying and helping students helping students find those unique talents. And then we really make sure we take advantage of those unique talents. Not every student is a great artist, but if they are, you know, we want to capture that. And by the way, Matt Kaufman, art teacher at the high school, did the painting of our logo and the words, and he's going to do some more work in the room, and you know, he's going to help our students that really are artists, and so on and so forth. So it's really about that's what the vision is. And our motto from the vision workshop is pathway to success. We want to create that path for all of our students to their success. So that's really about what we're doing. Help to answer the question? You bet.
Can you speak a little bit to vertical alignment? You hear it for the last decade, I would say, at LTUSD, but I feel like I've heard it this year. And I'm wondering if you can speak to, like, what avenues is that going to be hitting? Because, I mean, we were talking about it site council meeting, it just seems to be definitely gap maybe,
Yeah.
even though I think the intent is there, but perhaps stuff has happened this year for our seen.
So the question is really specific to vertical alignment. And what's interesting about our LCAP and our LCAP process, and really hearing from folks, is that do we have a alignment of curriculum and instruction TK-12 through our system? Talk about vertical, right, through the system. And as we think about that component, is when if I'm a student in a kindergarten classroom, across any classroom in our district, we're going to make sure we have a consistent level of what I'm supposed to learn, you know, and overall it's there, but even through the process of discussing alignment with our teachers and parents and staff, was realized, you know what, there's a need to make certain that we have this system of alignment. So when we think about state has standards, we have the standards for what we're supposed to teach for English language arts, standards what we're teaching to mathematics. That already creates basically a model of a vertical alignment of a system. And so what we really need to make sure we do is that we have all the teachers have supports to help them make sure that they have what they need to keep those standards in mind and are able to successfully teach them at each of the grade levels moving through the system. So we have to take a real look at, okay, if I'm a student in first grade at Magnet, and I'm a student first grade at Sierra House, am I getting that same level of instruction and teaching and learning no matter what school I'm at? And then as I move through the system up to middle school and through to high school, that there's an alignment of that instructional model. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Would you add anything to that? And I'll repeat it on the mic.
Assessment where student strengths grow.
Yeah, you know what?
And
So,
collaborate.
yeah, so to the question about vertical alignment, and just from Ms. Sinkler, and thank you for adding some of your thoughts, is, you know, how important assessment is to that process of vertical alignment, seeing how students are performing and how we use data to drive decisions around student learning. And then how we collaborate together as a staff and talk about that so that you can create that systematic. Coherence is a word that a lot of folks are using. Coherent, consistent, aligned curriculum.
Is that what some of the professional growth is going to be spent on then? Because I would say that there are some high school teachers who don't know some middle school teachers who are teaching the same subject matter. And is there a time for?
So I got to tell you what, I love what your statement was, right? So like, if you think about alignment moving through the system, you have to have K teachers talking to one teacher talking to two teachers, right? And so up and so forth. You have to have middle school teachers talking to high school teachers. Yeah. And we have to find and build in collaboration time to do that, right? We have to make that as part of a priority, as part of how we work together. So that's just part of our work that we have to get done. Thank you. Any other questions? And, you know, it's not required, but I love that we have, you know, able to share and folks online can watch. I'm kind of curious if anybody will, or if anybody is. Do you have the ability to see if anybody's watching this right now? I'm just curious. And by the way, if you are, thank you. Thank you for joining on that. And for everybody in the room, thank you for attending. I really do appreciate it. Huh?
I think so.
Oh, very good. I'd love that you're here if you're watching. You know, it really, this meeting isn't meant to be to just sit up here and talk. I do want to give 15 minutes or so of what's happening in the district. But then it is an opportunity for us to just sit here and share together. So again, thank you for the person that's out there, and want to encourage you to come here next time. But are there any other questions?
I have another question.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit? Is it scheduling at the middle? We haven't heard much. They were talking about it. Do we know what's happening in the fall?
So specific, is there a change coming to the schedules, middle school and high school? And I will tell you, probably not any dramatic shifts or changes to the schedules currently, as we move forward through this process of collaborating with our staff and with our administration and our our parents and community. We'll take a look. For example, I mean, I'm going to be real specific and make sure the elephant in the room is out. Is some people have asked, are we going to continue doing 4x4 at the high school? And I definitely have heard some concern about the 4x4. So what I want to make sure that we're doing moving forward is explore, is it the right thing for our school and our future? And I don't necessarily have that answer, but I think that means we need to work with our staff, our teaching staff, first and foremost, then with our parents and our students. Is this the right thing to do?
I just ask this, I mean, regardless my opinion of it, I would think the kids, in terms of planning, now in the spring, we need to know, are we
Yeah.
going to be in a 4x4?
We will be in a 4x4 two-term system next year. So yeah, we'll be looking at it. I don't want to make any promises that we're keeping it or changing it. We want to have a process respectful of our staff, respectful of our parents and community, and really thinking about what's best for kids. It really needs to come back, what's best for our students.
And that'll be the same for the middle. Each year to fall.
Yeah, yeah, there's not gonna be any dramatic change. We're trying to work on, middle school already has this built in, but for all of our schools, a collaboration time. So they still have a little bit of adjusted, like, for example, how we have early, I know Wednesdays, we've been serving students that really needed additional support. Wednesdays will be back for all students next year, but we're still looking at maybe having a shortened day a little bit for intervention, for collaboration. But we need to work that out with our staff groups and see how we can make that work. Thank you. Good question. Great. Good. I love it. Other questions? I'll pick on Carlene. Is there anything that you think that people out there should hear from the superintendent today?
No.
Well, while you're thinking about that, my one parent's got another question.
What about the like language art and EL? Has that happened? Is that going to happen?
So going back to the talk about the LCAP, the Local Control Accountability Plan, in the LCAP, we have several positions. And so let me talk about all of them, and then I can answer to the specialist question. In the LCAP, we have ELD coordinator. And so ELD, English Language Development Coordinator. We have so then we have some specialists, ELD, English Language Development Specialist, mathematics specialists, and English Language Arts, Writing, and Literacy Specialist. Right, so those are 3 specialists. We then also have 6 intervention teachers, so it can support student needs by intervention. We have some teachers, and then we also have instructional assistants for intervention. We have added a counselor to elementary, so 1 elementary school counselor that would serve all of our elementary sites. Probably looking at, may not look exactly like this, but we're an elementary counselor will be on each site once a week. So we can have some more direct support for the social emotional development. We have some components of career tech education. So we have a career tech education coordinator that would be a teacher at the high school that will have some time, like a period, to work on being a coordinator, but also be a practicing CTE teacher. Then we also are looking at hiring 4 career tech ed. We're kind of titling it specialists, but it's non-certificated, meaning not teacher, and it's not management. The idea is that we're going to create a K-12, TK-12 career tech education plan, and that we would begin to support our elementary students in how to discover what kind of careers are out there. I like to say it's discover at the elementary level. I'm going to go discover what's out there in careers, and then we're going to engage, explore at the middle school, get a little bit more detailed, and then we're going to engage in those career types of options at the high school through our CTE coursework and those different components. So those are some of the positions that we're going to be adding. You asked specifically about the specialists. Really, you asked a question about alignment and coherence and vertical, right? And really, that's what the the specific focus will be, is to help and look specifically at math, English language arts, writing, and English language development, and how we're supporting that system, TK through 12. And so those folks will work side by side with teachers, looking at the curriculum material they have, the standards, and really looking at how they can support and design and help develop a coherent aligned system. So you asked, is that happening? Those positions were posted previous couple of weeks. They closed this past week internally. One is external because it's administrative type of a position, which is the LD coordinator. It's not really specific. It's an administrative component. We have candidates for all these positions, and now we're just working through that. One of the challenges what will happen is we'll have staff that take these jobs, and then we'll have to backfill. So it's a little late. I would tell you I want to have staffing done by the end of May, and June and July would only be if like somebody left last second. But with the LCAP in the process, it just makes it very challenging this year, but we'll be on top of that for the next year. Great question. Thank you. Yeah.
Different. Making connections.
So you're talking about a horizontal alignment? Oh, okay.
So I was wondering.
Yeah, so
What is that?
yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to say a couple things. And again, for folks, if you didn't hear, there's a question really more about horizontal alignment. So we have vertical alignment, thinking about how we teach a subject matter moving through our system, moving TK through to 12. But horizontal is how do we teach basically across the subject matter. Like, so if I'm a sophomore at high school, you know, my social studies, my English teacher, my science teacher, how does that kind of come together? And we talk about engaging students across those curricular areas, which is a very powerful component. But I say this to you that there's so much to accomplish, right? And we've heard from so many folks that really we do have that struggle of vertical alignment that has to be part of our focus as a district overarch. I think that when we start talking about horizontal alignment and that articulation of that, and that collaboration that needs to happen, it's really going to be driven by teachers. And like, for example, at the high school, during that collaborative time, talking about how do we come together and match up some of that work. And so some of that's scheduling, some of that is scheduling with how the master schedule gets pulled together. Some of that is how we pull our teachers together to collaborate and discuss how they can engage in that manner. So there's that creation of time, because you don't have these things happen without teachers having time. And I know that folks, that might be a struggle to understand, but when teaching is such a difficult profession, you think about it, yeah, we say it's only 180 days, but number one, teachers, you know, that 180 days is intense. And you think if they don't have collaboration time, you get to work early, you work all day, and you're grading papers and you're planning for instruction. So you have to have some time to find time to help pull people together. So scheduling has to be a component of how we work the schedule to do that, collaboration time, and how administration works with teachers to have that kind of dialogue. Thanks for the question.
I think of something else. Can we
Go. Yeah, we got time.
Can you talk a little more? I guess one of my big concerns coming off of COVID and being on Zoom or Google Meets for kids, are we going to go, and whether it's professional development or the teachers pulling from their resources or multiple intelligences and trying to get out of the one that we've been doing or the audio visual learning, but whether how the teachers are presenting it to the kids, is that going to, because I feel some of our kids who are really not achieving are not achieving because they don't learn with visual, or, which I know is traditional school, but I think it's founded here
Well,
with being on the computer and
it's,
that's their face to face.
so I'm going to go to our vision statement. And I wish I had it right in front of me to say it exactly because it's new and I did memorize it and everything else. But the vision statement really talks about how do we make sure we tap into the unique talents of individuals. And so your question talked about really how do we address multiple modalities of learning, right? So students don't all learn the same. And so if we kind of always do what we've always done, is that we're going to reach all of our learners. And so when you said go back, well, hopefully we never go back. You know, we always go forward. And so we look at what that
But
forward
I
looks
meant
like.
was from to their resources, not go, but like many teachers have, and we talk about needing to do vertical alignment and professional development having time. But I would argue, especially in our, we have some very qualified teachers who have these resources already at their disposal. That's what I mean.
Yeah, and what I would, I guess I would say is I think that's one of the great things I think that the pandemic did for us. It made us have to look at other methods and means of how we do the work. And so when you take about some of the, and you just said it, we have some really highly qualified teachers that are utilizing several new methods, different methods to reach out and be able to access the learning. And Carlene just talked about engage the learner. So it's not all the same methods and means reach all of the learners. And so hopefully that is an element and a component of both vertical and horizontal alignment as well, going back to that, right? Because when we think about how we move a student through the system, we have to be really cognizant of how we're understanding that student's needs, that individual student's needs to learn differently than maybe this other student. And that technology has provided some of those new opportunities for us. You know, when we think about all the way back to last August, and we're making a decision that we definitely need to use Canvas, and realizing our teachers don't necessarily have training on Canvas, and how far we've come to have our teachers now accessing and utilizing a platform and teaching and instructing on it. Realizing, by the way, some people said this has been a failed year. I'm like, number one, all of our students have learned. Now, how much they've learned, it will depend on assessing how that looks. But many of our students actually were really successful in this mode this year because it met up with how they learn. And so I guess if I'm understanding your question, really we do need to make certain that we are working with our teachers to think about all of the different modalities that people learn from, and that we can be successful helping students do that. Yes, sir. Yeah, you know, I think that because this wasn't necessarily the normal year, we have to consider and plan for how are we in essence reintroducing. I would hope, and by the way, I guess you guys didn't hear the question. It's really about, hey, coming off of this pandemic year, how are we making sure that we think about students that didn't have this full year in a school, and how do we address that development, that maturation that happens by being in school. And I don't know if I have a direct answer that this is how it's done. I do know that we realize that students already have a difficult transition when they move from middle school to high school or elementary to middle, and we need to address that. We've really focused in on how do we help our sixth graders and how do we help our ninth graders, and that's planned for. But the question you pose really is an important one that now needs to be posed back to our administration of, when you think about your students that have been out so much, how have you focused on how to reintroduce them to school, if you will, right? So to the question, I'm assuming that that most of our students, not all, because we have students in ILA, we have students in Elevated, and we have some that are still virtual, but for the most part, and I don't have a percentage on the top of my head, but 85–90% of our students are back in school attending regularly right now. And hopefully our teaching staff, our administration, our counselors are looking for those signs of need, of what do we need to do for students as they may be struggling from coming off of a year that's been so different. So I appreciate just even putting the thought in it for us.
Setting them up with them.
Yeah, just in case you're not being heard on here, and one of the things that Carly, Principal Sinclair was talking about is how do we set up buddies, kind of buddy groupings for students to, like mentors, right? Yeah, really good. Thanks for the question. Yeah, other questions? Tell you what, you guys done a great job, kept us talking. Anything else going once? Anything else going twice? Well, for those folks that either joined us or are going to watch later, I hope that it was informative for you on the YouTube. Want to encourage that you come in here, that we have the room spaced out. Everybody's wearing masks. I just felt like being on camera, I would take it off. And we want to invite you to come and join us every first Monday of the month, except for July. It'll be in our newsletters that it's coming up. We'll ask our principals to send out information. We will have one in August. I can tell you right now, I got to pull up the date. First Monday in August. Hold on, I'm going to tell you really shortly. It is Monday, August 2nd. Monday, August 2nd. Visit with the superintendent. It's on my calendar. Right there it is. Okay, so please join us 5:30 in the boardroom. We'll YouTube it out. What I'll do is that's going to be right as we're getting ready to start kicking off another school year. I'll update what's happened over the summer, what we're doing and working on as we get ready to start the school year. Hopefully we'll be right going into our summer camps that we're going to be doing. By the way, I don't know if I actually said summer camps on our extended learning opportunities conversation earlier, but we're going to be doing some summer camps for kids. And the focus on that is things that we couldn't do in school this year because of the pandemic. Like we really didn't do band or choir or some of those things, and especially at the younger levels is didn't do some of the science types of projects and things. So we're trying to pull together camps. Most likely right now, we're going to do that first week of August, and then the second and third week of August will be our jump start. So we'll see. So on August 2nd, I'll be able to share all about it, talk about what's coming up on the board agenda and answer any questions. With that said, thank you for joining us. Thank you for those that are in the room. Appreciate it. Look forward to continuing to build on the visit with the superintendent. So go out and encourage folks to attend. Bye now.